All right, so moving on to college football. A pretty scathy subject here. Art Briles, former head coach of the Baylor Bears. He got signed by the Grambling State to be their offensive coordinator, and then 3 days later, per the reports, he quit. I mean, I guess I would quit too when they turn up the heat on me. For those of you that don't know, the reason Art Briles is a free agent out here on these streets is not because his lack of coaching, not because he can't coach on the Division 1 level. It's it's said that he kind of breached a bad culture, as they say, and he runs a culture of no accountability. And if you want to know what I mean, we're gonna break down a little bit, but we're talking about his time as the head coach of the Baylor Bears and multiple sexual assault accusations and investigations of his team that they go pretty long, Jay. All I can tell you is this, right? The first investigation that was brought up against him was against one of his players was April 15th of 2012. April 15th of 2012. Now, uh, in June 20th of 2016, I think that a woman filed a Title IX lawsuit against Baylor. I think that was, even though it's a track record of accusations in between that, that was the one that actually, as they say, the straw that broke the camel back, and that actually got down the road got him fired. Um, and it looks like he got fired around 2008. Okay, yeah, around 2018. So long story short, Jay, as you read this information, you see the egregiousness of it, and you ask me this question: what took them so long to go and wrap him up? I have my reasonings. You might have heard other reasons, but with that said, with all the everything that Art Brosnan done wrong, do you think it's fair what Grambling State did to him by hiring him, and then public opinion jumps in, and then they fire him, or he say he quit? Do you think that was right by Grambling State?
Yeah, just for the record, just based on what I'm reading, I think if you believe what's being out there, Browse decided to step down himself just based on I don't want to be a distraction, blah blah blah. Drake, we talked about before we got on here, the Les Miles thing in LSU, and from what I'm, correct me if I'm wrong, but there was after all the time that's passed, and Les Miles was out at Kansas when everything went downhill for him there. There was some allegations directly at him for his own conduct for things he had done. Is that correct?
Right, 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 right.
Okay. And so you're thinking like, oh, what are you talking about? Well, as much as Art Briles deserved to be fired at Baylor, from what I'm not reading anything to where he was guilty of a sexual assault or sexual harassment or anything. He just had a culture of players and they didn't vet transfers and all this. They had a real problem, a campus wide problem. I think it's probably fair to say, and that's what led to his demise.
And I agree with that. But the problem in college football, college sports in general, one of the unique things about college sports is the coach himself don't have to do anything wrong other than lose the lack of accountability of what his players are
Yeah.
doing.
Yes.
And
Right.
we did see multiple examples of that. If Patino, what he did in Louisville, like
Yep.
Les Miles, Joe Paterno, like we did seen it throughout history of college sports where the coach don't necessarily be the one that's doing the wrongdoing, but if you don't know
Yeah.
about it, you might as well be the one doing the wrongdoing. And that
Right.
that's not my policy. That's just how it seems to be in college sports.
No, 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 no. I get it, and that's why I said like that's why he was fired. I think that's fair. I guess my problem is I'm a little bit conflicted on this, but I think the more and more I think about it, I guess how long? Like, what's the ultimate penalty for this? Like, is Art Briles not allowed to hold a job in college football for, or I think what he coached? Well, from what I read, he coached a couple of years of high school since Baylor and
Right.
coached overseas one year. So
Right.
what is the penalty for Art Briles? Is he not allowed to coach in any position ever again in college football? Like that, because think about it, Drink. We've seen other guys, whether it be coaches and definitely players, get all the chances in the world. I mean, what about a guy like Urban Meyer? A guy and I know he's had a lot more success at that. He's had now Art Briles was a successful coach. He didn't win national titles, but he brought Baylor back from the dead. But now look, Urban Meyer, everywhere he leaves Florida. Oh man, that's interesting. You got some problems there. You left Ohio State. You had that wide receivers coach who was acting up. Oh, you left Well, no, they just kicked you out of Jacksonville because it was just such a disgrace what was going on down there. Look, they're certainly not the only ones. But my point is, so many people get chances, and we had this as a rapid last week, and I said, look, we give people second chances. Our Briles don't appear to be getting a second chance, and the big problem here is, Drink. They hired him, and you hired the guy, and you can't. As much as you just said about, look, the coach is responsible. He should know what's going on. And if he don't know what's going on, well, now you just ain't got control. And ignorance is not going to be an excuse. And so I say that to say Grambling State had to know. They knew what they was getting into. They knew Art Briles coached Baylor when this whole thing, this sexual assault ring was happening. And so you have to be prepared. You have to be prepared for what's coming in with the day and age we live in, where somebody gonna be out here crying about something. And so, if you, as Grambling State and an employer, you should have done your job and assessed that. If you had any indication or any belief that, like, hey man, we got this guy, we want to be the offense coordinator for the football team. And we know he got a history. We know he got a checkered past, but like, hey, we're going to give him a shot. If you were going to bend the knee to, whoever was out here crying about it, then you shouldn't hire him. Because now, as much as we can be critical of Art Briles, Grambling State's done him a disservice now. Because you hired the guy, you knew his past, and if you were comfortable enough with hiring him, you should have stuck with him. Because now you're looking at Grambling State, and they're not the only ones that do this. We saw it with Tennessee, Graciano, and I'm sure there's other examples we could find. But these institutions that they make a decision, and then based on public pressure, they backtrack. I think it shows incredible weakness, and I don't think that's a play. I'm uncomfortable with that type of standard being set, because again, there's no defined penalty for this. I mean, how long does Art Briles have to be removed from this to where he could get another job? And think about it, Drink. You talk about, hey, you're responsible for the culture. Well, they're not hiring him. They're not hiring him as a head coach. They just want him to run the offense. Hugh Jackson's got to do the culture. And by the way, this made Hugh Jackson look bad before he even coached for Grambling State. So, for Grambling State here, and they don't get much airtime on the show, but this is a big fat L for that university, just because, look, they obviously had interest in, hey man, this guy's a successful coach, ran a great offense at Baylor. We think he can help us win football games. That's why we bringing him in. And now and I'm not making light of what happened at all, and his responsibility and his role in it and his ignorance of it or whatever. He should have done a better job. But at some point, we have to, like, the man is a football coach. He's a successful football coach. He's not coming in to be the head coach. Let him run the offense. And Grambling State, I mean, I think they should have stuck up for him. Maybe they would have. Maybe if Art Briles hadn't decided to walk away, it'd be different. But I think this is a poor look for Grambling State in general.
So to the last point that you made about maybe if he was stuck around and Grambling State probably would have took up for him. In Art Briles' defense, and I'm not defending what he did at Baylor. Let me make that clear.
Right.
I'm just defending like the whole coaching process or the vetting process of coaching. I remember when he applied to be a Canadian football coach. I want to say the Hamilton Tiger Cats or something like that in the Canadian Football League. And they almost did the same exact thing. But what they did that was smart was before they hired him, they just threw out these flyers. Oh, we about to hire Art Briles. We about to hire Art Briles. Just to see what came back. And they didn't like what came back. And they was like, you know what, Art? We thought we wanted you. We don't, we can't handle that, man. You got too much negative publicity. And I thought maybe that was the way most teams will handle it. Throw it out there, see what you get back. Hugh Jackson, I think Hugh Jackson felt like I got enough cachet out here on these streets where I can hire him and not get the backlash. Now, folks, one thing might not have nothing to do with the other, but just remember, Hugh Jackson is the coach that just came out here and tried to back up Brian Flores and then backtracked all the way out of that backup. Remember that. So, Hugh Jackson's word right now ain't as good as he might have thought when you go out here talking about, oh, I was paid to lose game. Well, whoa. Maybe I wasn't paid to lose game. Maybe we were just that bad. Okay. And you thought, Hugh Jackson, the best move would be to go get one of the most untouchable coaches in college football history and try to bring him aboard your staff. Now, I do agree with you. I agree with you, Jay. Like, what is the end goal here? Like, is he in prison for life or did he actually get a term that will end? Because, for all intents and purposes, if we don't figure this out, you can might well say Art Briles got the equivalent to the death penalty. Pretty much what SMU got back in the day for outright cheating in broad daylight. We seen how long that took them to bounce back. And Art Briles probably never coach another college football game at this rate if he's never going to get a shake. To answer your question, Jay, what I think is going to take, because it's no official penalty out there that say he can't coach in college again, it's going to take a head coach that got so much pull that he got the Teflon on him and he can take so many shots and give him a chance to show what he got. That's what it's going to take. And anything short of that, Art Briles will not be able to coach because the culture and the demand around any program, if that happens in Grambling State, you can only imagine what's going to happen in the FBS, in the FCS if you try this. Grambling State ain't that big, but it's big enough, and Art Briles' name is tainted enough where it becomes front page news when you decide to hire him. And I think maybe Hugh Jackson said, dang it, I just did something before I thought it out again, just like he did with the Brian Flores investigation, right? But unfortunately, the thing is, Art Briles can coach in this game. He can coach. And usually when you can coach or you can play or whatever the case might be, you do get that second chance to show what you can do. Art Briles, unfortunately, I don't even think Nick Saban can take these shots for Art Briles. And if he can't, I don't know who else in college football can, to be honest with you. Nick that made a name for himself taking coaches that have been washed out or whatever the case might be, bringing them into the program, fixing up that image, put them in that suit and tie and sending them on the way, letting the birds leave the nest per se. Art Briles, I don't even think he can do that for him. And unfortunately, Jay, as unfair as it is, I'm hoping another school won't do what Grambling State just did, which is hire him and then fire him. But it's just hard for me to see another program. It's hard to see, man, because it's so much. You equated it to Greg. I can't say his name. The coach that left Rutgers and was supposed to coach at Tennessee, and then Tennessee said, "Get him on out of here, pack him up." Greg Schiano. But anyway, his allegations was maybe a tenth of what Art Briles got going on. And Tennessee was like, yeah, we good on that. Right? So if that's what they're doing to coaches of that magnitude, Art Briles, I'm sorry, brother, but you're going to have to go ahead and coach that high school football or the Canadian football didn't even want you. I don't know what you was doing overseas, but you might have to go back over there and get you some of them dollars, them euros, you know what I'm saying? Get you some, pack that up because you might be done in college football. But I can't say I feel super bad because at the end of the day, when you read the reports, just month after month after month after month, it's hard for me to say Art Briles couldn't have known about all this. Really? I mean, and Helen Keller could have caught on to this. Like, I mean, it's month after month after month. What do you mean? It's no way he didn't see or hear any of this noise. One or the other. It was just too many allegations coming out. He had too many players wrapped up in allegations for him not to be able to know that. So I'm not sitting here advocating and saying that he's getting done wrong for no reason. But I will say this. You can't hire a guy. You can't hire him and then fire him and say, oh, well, he was tarnishing my reputation and I didn't realize how bad it was going to be. That's just not good enough, Hugh Jackson. And honestly, Grambling State need to think about what they got in Hugh Jackson when he keep making like little blunders like this. You know what I'm saying? It might be time to look into him as the head coach.